Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 614 based on novel. So let's start. There are 7 people that stopped at the 13th palace. Aside from these 47 Ascendant Empyreans, there are 2 more who are considered the strongest Ascendant Empyreans. The first is Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei, who stopped at the 14th palace. The other is Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, who stopped at the 16th palace. From the 11th palace onward, every palace is very difficult. It is no longer simple like breaking the planets in the first 10 palaces, but doing battle against the 72 foreign beasts the celestial ancestor faced. Among the 72 foreign beasts, there are strong and weak ones. Although their presence in the Empyrean trial is only an illusion and they are greatly weakened, they are, after all, beasts that battled the celestial ancestor. If you can beat the 72 foreign beasts and walk the path the celestial ancestor walked, then by the time you pass the 19th palace you will naturally have the strength that not even a Grand Empyrean would act casually against. And from the 11th palace onward, there are great fortunes, but not everyone can obtain them. There are those that have passed the 11th palace but obtained nothing. As for the specifics, I don't know, but I know that someone has obtained a spell from the celestial ancestor in the 11th palace. But only one Ascendant Empyrean has passed the 19th palace and then became a Grand Empyrean. Aside from him, no one has passed the 19th palace. Even the current Grand Empyreans can't. Even the current Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Grand Empyrean 8 Extreme were only Empyrean exalts back then. Only with a stroke of luck did someone become a Grand Empyrean through the immemorial God realm and the other though inheriting the celestial ancestor's bloodline. Grand Empyrean Gemini and Grand Empyrean Ju Di are rumored to be from the same generation, and they were under the celestial ancestor. As for whether this is true or not, I don't know. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng was also an Ascendant Empyrean, but he only passed the 14th palace and couldn't compare to the current Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. I chose to follow him precisely because of this. After all, us Ascendant Empyreans have our own pride. Even if one becomes a Grand Empyrean through luck, if we aren't willing, we won't follow them. Ascendant Empyrean Snow Rain slowly said to Wang Lin. Which Grand Empyrean was the only one to reach the 19th palace as an Ascendant Empyrean? Wang Lin had never heard of any of this and his expression became serious. The Donglin sect's Grand Empyrean Donglin. Before he fell, he was the #1 Grand Empyrean in my celestial clan. Even Grand Empyrean Ju Di dreaded him. He was the only one who completely relied on his own strength to become a Grand Empyrean, but it was obvious Grand Empyrean Donglin was someone who Snow Rain respected a lot. When he talked about Grand Empyrean Donglin, his expression was a bit crestfallen. Wang Lin silently pondered and he recalled the lonely old man in the Donglin sect who was relying on a dream to accompany him. Grand Empyrean Donglin's descendant. Wang Lin took a deep breath and clasped his hands at Snow Rain and company. Many thanks. He moved very fast as he pierced through the clouds and arrived at the 11th palace. He looked up at the 11th palace and then charged up without hesitation. Under the gaze of Snow Rain's group of 3, under the gazes of all the cultivators below, and as the eyes of the cold-looking Ascendant Empyrean tiny child lit up, Wang Lin pierced into the clouds toward the 11th palace. The 11th palace was the goal and desire of all the Empyrean exalts here. Whether they passed or not, it was a symbol of strength and power. The 11th palace was different from the 10 below. It was larger, and even the pressure it gave off was stronger. It was completely black and gave off a cold aura. Including those 9, only 22 people have passed the 11th palace. One move will make me famous. Passing the 10th palace is not enough. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he entered the 11th palace without hesitation. When he entered the 11th palace, all the Empyrean exalts below gasped and their faces filled with fear and excitement. These kinds of expressions should normally not appear on them. After all, any one of them could cause the world outside to tremble. However, at this moment, they were filled with fear and excitement due to Wang Lin's crazy action. I thought he would stop after the 10th palace, but he is going to continue. How many palaces is he going to pass? How many can he pass? He's gone mad, unless this Wang Lin has enough confidence, or he is blinded by the glory of becoming an ascendant Empyrean. Passing multiple palaces at once like this is extremely rare. Snow Rain's group of 3 also looked over. They were not optimistic about Wang Lin's chances. They thought Wang Lin had a 90% chance of failing. After all, they had tried the 11th palace but failed. More than half the ascendant Empyreans were stuck here. They didn't believe Wang Lin, who had just become an ascendant Empyrean, had the strength. He has some momentum, but the 11th palace is not so easy. Back when I passed the 10th palace, I attempted the 11th palace as well but failed. It wasn't until many years later that I successfully passed the 11th palace. Among the more than 40 ascendant Empyreans, only ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei and ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao continued. Cai Wei stopped at the 12th and Ming Dao stopped at the 13th. The reason the two of them have the fame they do now and are considered the strongest ascendant Empyreans is largely because of this. It is impossible for this person, the childlike ascendant Empyrean looked calm, but he sneered in his heart. At this moment, the cultivators here were not the only ones observing this place. Aside from the Grand Empyreans, even more ascendant Empyreans were using different methods to observe the Empyrean trial. They had found out that there was a 49th ascendant Empyrean, and he hadn't left, but was instead going to try the 11th palace. In the Dao Yi sect, Grand Empyrean Dao Yi seemed to have forgotten everything and was focused on the pool before him. He looked calm, but a strange light shined from his fists. This child, I must recruit him to work under me. There was also Grand Empyrean Wu Feng inside the glacier in the northern continent. He stared at the glacier, his eyes filled with determination. As for the middle-aged man inside the Purple Yang sect who could occasionally hear miserable screams from outside, he was very excited. He stared at the mirror and muttered to himself. If he can be recruited under Grand Empyrean Gemini, he will definitely be a great help to the Grand Empyrean. Central Continent, Mount Emperor. Grand Empyrean Zhu Di was lazily sitting under the sun like an old man unwilling to move. When Wang Lin passed the 10th palace, he opened his eyes. He passed? Even though he passed the 10th palace, he is just a bigger ant. Can't be compared to Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei and definitely can't compare to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. What did the Celestial Emperor promise him to recruit Ming Dao? The old man sighed and still felt pity that he couldn't recruit Ming Dao back then. In the empty palace in the Imperial Palace, a voice muttered. Ming Dao, what do you think? As the voice echoed, ripples spread out inside the palace and a person walked out. This person was a young man in black who had a cold expression. He looked at the illusion in the empty palace. I only need one breath to kill him. At this moment, Wang Lin stepped into the 11th palace. His vision became blurry and he appeared in a star system again. However, this star system had no planets but was covered in fog. The fog was very dense, it seemed impossible to split apart and surrounded the area. What is Dao? A majestic voice rang out in the star system and set off countless echoes. The voice echoed in Wang Lin's heart and ears. What is Dao? What is Dao? That voice was even more intense now. It seemed to be muttering and also roaring. It caused Wang Lin's body to tremble, and he even felt his soul was going to collapse. Wang Lin's face turned slightly pale, but his eyes shined brightly. His understanding of Dao had formed 3 ethereal essences. His enlightenment in Dao was far superior to that of most people on the immortal astral continent. Even some Empyrean exalts and Ascendant Empyreans couldn't compare to Wang Lin. This enlightenment of Dao was something outsiders couldn't see at all, it was an evolution of one's own thought process. Wang Lin slowly said, life and death are the restraints, this is Dao. The moment he opened his mouth, his comprehension of his life and death Dao appeared around him. At this moment, the sound disappeared and chains appeared around him. The chains began to spread, pushing away the fog, revealing the bright star system. There was a figure wearing a golden robe and a crown before him. There was a giant scorpion before the shadow. This scorpion was hundreds of thousands of feet large and it gave off a chilly aura as it roared. Wang Lin's vision became a blur. When he regained his vision, he seemed to replace the golden figure and was battling the scorpion. Green Devil Scorpion. At this moment, Wang Lin didn't hesitate to put on the soul armor. Time slowly passed. This was different from passing one palace in several breaths. It had been half an incense stick of time since Wang Lin entered. The place was completely silent as they waited, watching the palace in the sky. Attempting the 11th palace is good. Once he fails, he will understand that the Empyrean trial is not something he can attempt in a craze. Ascendant Empyrean Snow Rain still sighed in his heart. Even now, he didn't believe Wang Lin could pass. Does he think he is Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei or Ming Dao? I struggled a lot to barely pass through the 11th palace. Battling against the foreign souls is very difficult. He definitely can't pass. Ascendant Empyrean Tiny Child had just sneered in his heart when his body suddenly trembled and his eyes overflowed with disbelief. A burst of golden light erupted from the 11th palace that was surrounded by clouds. Impossible. Ascendant Empyrean Tiny Child's eyes widened. In the Empyrean trial, as the golden light spread out from the 11th palace, Wang Lin stepped out. His face was pale and he immediately sat down inside the golden light. Everything that happened inside the 11th palace replayed in his mind. The Green Devil Scorpion was the first spirit to appear, and after that, 8 more foreign souls appeared with no break in between. If not for the fact that Wang Lin had put on the soul armor right away, it would have been difficult to pass the 11th palace. In particular, the last soul, a giant elephant the size of a planet, had great strength. Wang Lin could feel that the 9 foreign souls were all illusions that couldn't match their original bodies but were still extremely powerful. Every one of them was at peak Empyrean Exalt level, and the last 4 were strong enough to battle ordinary Ascendant Empyreans. Wang Lin didn't have time to waste. After he put on the soul armor, he had a time limit, so he took off the soul armor immediately after he finished the 11th floor to extend its usage. When he walked out from the 11th palace, a majestic voice appeared in Wang Lin's mind as the golden light spread out from the palace. This voice was inaudible to outsiders, only he can hear it. I'm Lian Yunjue, and my divine sense was left here in the Empyrean trial. I also left my spell, the 8 Extreme Dao, here. If the future generation is fated, they can obtain it here. You have passed my test and therefore can obtain my Extreme Fire Dao. This is not a spell, essence, or Dao spell. It was not created by me, it inherited from the immemorial God realm. As the voice echoed in Wang Lin's mind, an image appeared in his mind. There was a palm, but it contained no trace of fire. The hand rose and green smoke appeared around its finger. The smoke circled the finger 9 times and formed 9 smoke rings. The smoke rings grew and gave off a terrifying aura. Wang Lin sat inside the golden light with his eyes closed as the image and voice appeared in his mind. He had seen this before and had even borrowed his avatar in the void to use it. But right now, he didn't borrow the power from his avatar at all. He raised his right hand subconsciously and green smoke circled his finger. This scene shocked all the cultivators below. He really passed the 11th palace. Not many Ascendant Empyreans can pass the 11th palace. He went from the 5th palace and in such a short period of time passed through the 11th palace. I can no longer guess his limit. After Wang Lin passed through the 11th palace, he had completely separated himself from Empyrean Exalts. The Empyrean Exalts below couldn't even see the green smoke on the tip of Wang Lin's finger due to the dense clouds. But Snow Rain and company saw it clearly. The 3 of them had complicated expressions as they looked at Wang Lin, feeling startled. To pass through the 11th palace in the first attempt. That green smoke, I have seen it on Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei. It is clearly the extreme fire from the 8 Extreme Dao. We thought he was the same as us, but I didn't expect him to have the power to pass the 11th palace. Among Ascendant Empyreans, the gap between every palace is extremely large. The 3 of them pondered and silently sighed. Unlike the 3 of them, in the distance, Ascendant Empyrean Tiny Child's expression constantly changed. He looked at Wang Lin with hatred in his eyes. 11th palace. Damn it, it took me a long time to pass through it back then. He also obtained the Celestial Ancestor's spell. And I didn't obtain it after passing. The 11th palace must be his limit. It is impossible for him to pass through the 12th palace. Over the countless years, even Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei was stopped at the 12th palace. Only Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao has passed it. This person definitely can't pass. As Ascendant Empyrean Tiny Child stared at Wang Lin, a rare trace of jealousy appeared in his heart. After a long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes and looked at the circles of green smoke on his finger. There was a flash of coldness in his eyes and then the green smoke dissipated. He looked up and never once looked down, but all the cultivators felt their hearts tremble. He looked up at the 12th palace high above him. Snow Rain Ascendant Empyrean said that from the 11th palace onward, each palace has its own fortune. Sure enough, this 8 extreme Dao is different from what I thought. I thought the celestial ancestor had created it, but he inherited it from the immemorial god realm. What exactly is this immemorial god realm? It seems like all signs point to the heaven-defying being from there, and the method of becoming a Grand Empyrean also comes from there. Even the celestial ancestor's spell was inherited from the immemorial god realm. What kind of existence is that place? As Wang Lin pondered, his eyes shined brightly. In this Empyrean trial, reputation isn't the only thing that can be obtained here. One can also obtain fortunes left by the celestial ancestor. Lian Yunjue. That really is the celestial ancestor's name. Wang Lin took a deep breath and his body trembled. At the same time, bursts of exclamations came from below as he rushed toward the 12th palace. He vaguely heard the excitement and deep expectations from the cries below. However, he didn't care about any of this. He was focused on his original goal in coming here. He was going to become famous with one brilliant move. He felt that just passing the 11th palace was not brilliant enough. He felt that even matching the second strongest Ascendant Empyrean, Cai Wei, and stopping at the 12th palace was not brilliant enough. He felt that perhaps surpassing the strongest Ascendant Empyrean, Ming Dao, could just barely count as brilliant. What's more, from the 11th palace and above, there were fortunes to obtain. Wang Lin was very interested in the 8 extreme Dao that the celestial ancestor had obtained from the immemorial god realm. Mad, he is indeed going to attempt the 12th palace. 12th palace. I don't know how many Ascendant Empyrean passed it, but these people are extremely rare. He will definitely pass. I don't think he will fail this time. Wang Lin's action caused Snow Rain and company to stare dumbfoundedly at his figure disappearing into the clouds. After a long time, their gazes were filled with an even more complicated feelings, along with admiration. Someone once said that there are those that know not of the limit of ambition. Today, I understand. His pursuit is something we can only watch from afar. Snow Rain, do you think he can pass the 12th palace? Yes. Although this is the first time we've met, this person would obviously not do something he has no grasp in. Since he dares to step into the 12th palace, he must be confident. It's unlikely. Only Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao was able to pass through the 12th palace when he became an Ascendant Empyrean. If he passes it, doesn't that mean he will set off the same storm as Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao? Back when Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao became an Ascendant Empyrean, he passed through the 12th palace and caused the Grand Empyreans to come to watch personally. Even most of the Ascendant Empyreans came. All the Grand Empyreans gave very attractive conditions, and he chose the Celestial Emperor in the end. As Snow Rain's group of 3 were talking, intense light came from the ancient transfer array and figures began to appear. These figures made all the Empyrean exalts below become extremely respectful, but they were not shocked that these people that were extremely difficult to meet had all appeared now. Ascendant Empyrean Heavenly Flame. Ascendant Empyrean Chen Fan. Ascendant Empyrean Shattered Dream. That is Ascendant Empyrean Han Dan. In a moment of silence, almost 30 Ascendant Empyreans came here with their divine senses. When they appeared, they all looked up with serious expressions. It was extremely rare for this many Ascendant Empyreans and Empyrean exalts to appear. Over the countless years, the only other time this happened was when Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao became an Ascendant Empyrean. Even Ascendant Empyrean Cai Wei didn't set off such a storm. After several breaths, the ancient transfer array shined brightly. The light became even more dense and, a moment later, a tall figure walked out. This shadow was bald, and after he appeared, the entire Empyrean trial became silent. Whether it was the Empyrean Exalts or Ascendant Empyreans, they all bowed at the bald figure. "Greetings, Grand Empyrean Wu Feng." This tall figure was Grand Empyrean Wu Feng. After he appeared, he was calm as he stepped forward and floated into the sky. He ignored all the people below and looked at Wang Lin, who was pondering. "Wang Lin, it doesn't matter if you pass through the 12th palace or not. If you follow me, I'll agree to any condition you request." Grand Empyrean Wu Feng's voice was not loud, but it echoed through the Empyrean trail and entered Wang Lin's heart. Wang Lin stopped for a moment outside the 12th palace. He bowed and looked down. "Thank you, Grand Empyrean, but I still need to pour my full attention on attempting the Empyrean trial. How about we talk about this later?" "Good." Grand Empyrean Wu Feng didn't mind at all. The more he looked at Wang Lin, the more he intended to recruit him. This was seen by all the surrounding cultivators, and their expressions changed. There was a strange feeling in their hearts. Such a scene, this many Ascendant Empyreans. This was almost comparable to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao back then. "Little friend Wang Lin, do you still remember our agreement?" Just at this moment, a voice that made Grand Empyrean Wu Feng frown came from the transfer array. The transfer array lit up and Grand Empyrean Dao Yi walked out. Grand Empyrean Dao Yi was wearing a simple Daoist robe, and he smiled as he walked out. He looked at Wang Lin, who was outside the 12th palace. Wang Lin's expression was calm, and he also looked at Grand Empyrean Dao Yi. He also pondered a bit before he clasped his hands. "I remember. If I pass the 9th palace, Grand Empyrean Dao Yi will come to recruit me again. This matter is not urgent. Little friend Wang Lin can first attempt the 12th palace." Grand Empyrean Dao Yi smiled and looked at Grand Empyrean Wu Feng, who was not far away. Their gazes collided and seemed to solidify. This was seen by all the cultivators present. The Empyrean Exalts all had strange gazes in their eyes. Aside from Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao, this was the second time they had seen Grand Empyreans fight over someone. Grand Empyrean Wu Feng revealed a flash of coldness and slowly said, "Dao Yi, I have my sights on his child. Don't fight with me." Grand Empyrean Dao Yi smiled and sent out a divine sense message. "Wu Feng, even we can't force Ascendant Empyreans. It all depends on his own choice. You eyeing him doesn't mean he will follow you. Moreover, he is about to attempt the 12th palace. Once he passes the 12th palace, he will be comparable to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. Forget you and me, even that old fellow Zhu Di might be moved to come. And there is also that Celestial Emperor. I don't know what he promised Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao to recruit him." As the two chatted with their divine senses in the sky, Wang Lin took a deep breath and stepped into the 12th palace. The moment he entered the palace, Dao Yi and Wu Feng stopped talking and looked up. All the cultivators here, whether it was Empyrean Exalts or Ascendant Empyreans, looked up. Only the few people watching from outside of the Empyrean trial had different thoughts. The middle-aged man in the purple Yang sect looked at the mirror bitterly and sighed deeply. How did he pass through the 11th palace? The 11th palace is fine, but he can't pass the 12th palace. Once he breaks through, what can I use to recruit him? I fear he will immediately be pulled to the Celestial Emperor and Grand Empyrean Zhu Di. Even Grand Empyrean Dao Yi and Wu Feng would find it difficult to match those two. Unfortunate. If my purple Yang sect's Grand Empyrean Gemini hadn't encountered an accident during the last reincarnation, we could compare to the Celestial Emperor and Zhu Di. This middle-aged man let out a bitter sigh and was about to give up on the idea of recruiting this person. However, at this moment, the door was kicked open and a little girl in red ran in. "Little Guya, why are you still looking at the broken mirror? Come out and help me and Han teach this little wolf a lesson. Today, this little wolf is being very bad." I'm going to teach him a lesson today. Little ancestor, the middle-aged man looked like he was about to cry. Eh? The person inside the broken mirror seems familiar. The little girl in red looked at the mirror and frowned as if she was thinking. Eh? Little ancestor, of course you are familiar with them. They are Grand Empyrean Wu Feng and Grand Empyrean Dao Yi. The middle-aged man sighed and planned on giving up recruiting. Let's go, little ancestor, I'll help you deal with that little wolf, the middle-aged man sighed. He pitied the poor cultivator named Greed. Not that dead baldy and that fake mask guy, it's this person. The little girl raised her right hand and pointed at Wang Lin, who had stepped into the 12th palace. He entered this hall. Very familiar. Let me think, the little girl pondered for a moment and then her eyes suddenly lit up. His name is Wang Lin. I remember that when I found Little Wolf, I also saw him. I remember that Han and I helped him once. And I seem to have seen him before. The person you said you want to recruit was him. Good. Me and Han will go with you. The little girl blinked and clapped her hands as she laughed. The middle-aged man swallowed and stared at the little girl dumbfoundedly. After a long time, his expression became excited. Little ancestor, are you certain you guys know him from before and even saved him? The little girl frowned and pointed at the excited middle-aged man as she said in an old-fashioned tone, Little Guya, are you going to be disobedient? It is indeed worthy of Grand Empyrean Gemini to have the foresight to have rescued him before. With this, perhaps we can really recruit him. The middle-aged man laughed in excitement and his face seemed a bit more rosy. He even coaxed the little ancestor before him like a child. As soon as the little girl heard this, she immediately smiled and looked very proud. HMPH, this is what little Guya gets for being disobedient. Now you know how powerful me and Han are and how far-sighted we are. I already told you to forget about those that left, but you won't listen. I, Grand Empyrean Gemini, never force anyone to say. If they want to leave, they can leave. Who controls the flow of fate? How can you, or them, understand this? The more the little girl spoke, the more proud she felt. Yes. Grand Empyrean Gemini controls the flow of fate. Guya admires, the middle-aged cultivator quickly smiled and looked at the little girl before him with a loving gaze. Although his cultivation was lacking, when Grand Empyrean Gemini went through an accident during her reincarnation, he chose to stay to take care of the two little girls when everyone else left. Everything he had done until now was for that grace she had given him during her peak. Back then, he was just an unknown Empyrean exalt under Grand Empyrean Gemini, but now he was the only one. While laughter echoed in the Purple Yang sect, on Mount Emperor in the central continent, the originally lazy Grand Empyrean Ju Di was now staring intently at the autumn leaf before him. Attempting to the 12th palace after passing the 11th palace. This one barely counts as a person. I could begrudgingly give him an offer. But with High Z there, if I go, it will seem to not quite match what I said before. Although the old man muttered this, he didn't even blink as he stared at the autumn leaf. Forget it is only the 11th palace. This child is far below Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. The old man turned his head and closed his eyes, but a moment later, he opened them again and looked at the autumn leaf. Can he pass or not? Also in the central continent, in the imperial city, in a luxurious palace, the black-robed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao stared at the illusion and frowned. Can you kill him in one breath? A calm breath echoed in the hall. Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao silently pondered and a moment later said, "One breath is enough." A laugh seemed to echo, and the voice came again. He can't pass through the 12th palace. His Heavenly Bull soul armor will meet the Heavenly Bull on the 12th palace. Let the others fight over this person, this emperor has no interest. Just as his words echoed, he suddenly stopped talking before he finished. Ripples echoed on the dragon throne and a middle-aged man who looked extremely similar to the celestial ancestor appeared. There was a hint of shock in his eyes as he looked at the illusion in the palace. The 12th palace in the illusion suddenly erupted with blinding, golden light. This golden light was clearly coming from the Empyrean trial, but it seemed to penetrate the void through the illusion, lighting this palace up. He passed the 12th palace. The middle-aged man in the golden robe was rather surprised. The young man in black beside him suddenly released a shocking killing intent. He stared at the illusion and his eyes revealed a monstrous chill. He understood that Wang Lin had passed through the 12th palace and would be like him in the past. Wang Lin would have the attention of everyone and all the Grand Empyreans would strive to recruit him. He could obtain better conditions to get even stronger. Wang Lin passing through the 12th palace meant that whenever someone talked about him, Wang Lin's name would be brought up. This naturally made him, who was always considered the #1 Ascendant Empyrean, very unhappy. The black-robed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao pondered a bit and said, "A mere 12th palace, there are a few people in the Celestial clan who can do it. Killing him still would only take one breath." But the golden-robed middle-aged man was staring at the illusion. It was unknown what he was thinking. At the same time, on Mount Emperor, the old man stood up and his eyes shined with a strange light. However, after hesitating a bit, he slowly sat down. "I have seen him once before, and this child has the heavenly bull soul armor." Passing the 12th palace with the power of the soul armor means he still can't compare to Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao. Unless he can pass the 13th palace with the soul armor, he is just a normal Ascendant Empyrean. The old man pondered as he sat down and closed his eyes. Tired. Really tiresome. Should I recruit him or not? He should not be able to break through the 13th palace and should give up. The old man immediately opened his eyes. He saw Wang Lin outside the 12th palace, surrounded by an invisible layer of water vapor. The pressure the ripples created could even be felt through the autumn leaf. Extreme water Dao. Just as the old man was observing the invisible water ripples around Wang Lin's body in the autumn leaf, he saw Wang Lin move. Wang Lin hadn't given up and was rushing toward the 13th palace. In a flash, his figure disappeared into the cloud as he rushed toward the 13th palace. This scene caused the black-robed Ascendant Empyrean Ming Dao to let out a cold snort, and there was a flash of killing intent in his eyes. "Celestial Emperor, I'm going to the Empyrean trial to attempt the 16th palace." This video will end here.